voice and educational guests talking about expert, just stuff, psychology and mental health. The Psych Central podcast is a very cool show. You can find it at psychcentral.com/show or your favorite podcast player. Now, sitting next to me right now is the expert among experts among experts. She is my baby sister. Now, for those who don't know who Gabe Howard is, I'm a person who lives with bipolar disorder, and I talk a lot about my life with bipolar disorder. Now, the things that I did impacted my family. They impacted my parents. They impacted my siblings. And we don't hear from them very much because, well, I don't let them get a word in edgewise. But my sister was gracious enough to come on and talk about her experience being the youngest child in a family with an older brother with bipolar disorder. So Debbie, welcome to the show.
Oh, I get to talk now?
Yeah, you can talk now.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being here. Debbie, the first question right out of the gate, we are 6 years younger. We're 6 years apart, not 6 years younger. You are
I'm 6 years younger.
You are 6 years younger. What did you notice about my behavior that you put together? Not what mom and dad told you, not what you later found out. Like growing up and watching your older brother, did you think anything was wrong or amiss?
Well, growing up, no. I mean, I was 6 years, still am, 6 years younger than you. So
thanks for bringing that up all the time.
All the time. So yeah, I mean, as growing up, no, I didn't notice anything. Looking back, I could pinpoint some things, but at the time growing up, I spent most of the time over at my friend's house.
I spent most of the time in my room, not sleeping. Just when you say looking back, you could see some stuff. Now, I know that you now have the vantage point of course, age and being a mom yourself and being married. But what are some of those things that reflecting back, you think, how did you not notice? Is there anything that sticks out?
And education.
Yes.
Education has really changed my vantage point. I would say looking back, I can definitely pinpoint some times where you've gone through mania. Probably even depression. I mean, I can think of one specific time when you're most likely were going through mania, when Heidi and I were over at the house by ourselves, well, with you. And it was a whirlwind of things that turned into a complete disaster for another reason. I'm not going to go into that, but you know what I'm talking about.
Dude, we'll save the outcome. Let's talk about what led up to the outcome.
Well, I can remember it just seemed in my little mind at that time, gosh, how old was I? 8?
10? Yeah, I was probably 14. I couldn't drive. So yeah, 8 and 14.
Yeah, I was probably around 8 or so, because you would have been old enough to have been watching us. And we would have had to have been old enough to have been left home with you.
Right.
But I just remember thinking how you were on like a power trip, chasing us around the house and squishing me behind the door. I remember being squished behind the door. I know that sounds funny, but looking back now, it's like picture frames from that day. But looking back now, I'm like, wow, you had to have been going through mania.
It was out of character. It was, and
normally you were very good at watching us.
Yeah, this was not. Debbie's my favorite. I can say that publicly. Debbie is my favorite.
You were my first word.
That is true. Her first word was jackass. No, I'm just kidding. Her first word was Gabe. Debbie and I were always very, very close. So this was unusual that we got in this huge fight. And of course it escalated up and there were hurt feelings between, siblings, as there always are. But what was interesting is I'm kind of glad that you brought that up, because my parents couldn't figure out, our parents, I'm used to saying my parents, our parents couldn't figure out what was going on with that either. Like, why you and Debbie never fight. That's a you and Billy thing. And of course I didn't know, but nobody thought to really look into it any further. It was just, well, you're not allowed to watch the kids anymore, which of course went away after 6 months because, free babysitters are hard to come by. And then this never happened again. Do you think, and again, I know this is a tough question and we're not trying to throw mom and dad under the bus, Do you think that they should have thought something was up with that? Like, why suddenly are Gabe and Debbie fighting?
Well, as a mother myself, now my daughter is only 5, but I am sure that there are some hormonal changes that can go on as a teenager. I'm not there yet. I haven't, yeah. Eva's not there yet, but I can see where they might have thought that. And like I said, I can't remember a lot of other instances besides when you pushed me through the window of their bathroom.
Okay, now that had nothing to do with
I mean, come
with
on, it's a little
bipolar
risky.
disorder. That had everything to do with mom and dad kept money in their room, locked the door, but left the window open. This is actually like an example of ingenuity and one of the only examples of the three of us working together. My parents had 3 kids, and all three of us had to play a role. I came up with the plan. Billy was strong enough to boost you through the window. You were small enough to fit through the window and, of course, unlock the door. And then we had to set the whole scene back up. I know that it's tough
Except
to
we got
ask.
pizza.
Well, yeah, and we got lots of pizza. You know, we got away with that forever. They never caught us.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Do you think that parents have a blind spot to their children? And I'm asking you not just as a mom, because I know that the quick answer is yes. I myself don't have children, but one of the things that I constantly heard from mom and dad is, well, we thought it was because you were a teenager. We thought it was because it was hormones. We thought it's because you were the oldest. We thought it's because you stayed up all night. We thought you were just weird. We thought it was the choices that you were making. They always had a reason to explain away my behavior. I was in trouble constantly, and you never got punished. Reflecting back, do you think that me just being a constant problem should have been an indicator to mom and dad that, why are we constantly punishing him? Is something up here? And again, we love our parents. We're all on good terms. Mom and dad are watching this right now live, and they're just rolling their eyes at us. I'm sure they're honestly, look, there's mom now. She's honestly interested.
I'm going to
No
get a text
pressure,
after
she's
this.
watching.
You know that. I'm going to get a text.
Probably have it now. Thank you for turning your phone off.
Probably. No, I do believe parents do have a blind eye. It's, my child could never do that. My child could never be sick. My child could never have bipolar or have a disease because it's just inconceivable. As a parent, you want the perfect child going through, raising the perfect child, sending him to school, him or her to school, them acting perfectly. It's the ideal world. So it can be hard to step back and look at it in another perspective, at least I would think. But I mean, I know with my daughter, I try not to do that. There's probably times I have, but I try not to do that. Like when I pick her from school, it's like, oh, I got in trouble. All right, what'd you do? Not,
So let's talk about let's talk about little Eva for a moment. Eva's 5 years old. She is an only child, and you describe her as feral. Those are your words. She is a feral child. She is loud. She is not quiet. She needs constant attention. And I say to everybody that will listen when I introduce my little niece that the only proof that I have that my genes have survived the family is Eva. And we all laugh and it's all funny. And Eva and I are, we're loud and boisterous. And I know she's only 5, but we represent.
Loud.
But you recognize that in some small way, what I'm saying is that your daughter behaves like somebody with bipolar disorder. Does that ever turn a corner for you? Does that ever strike you as, wait, is Gabe saying my kid is mentally ill? Because that can be scary.
It can be scary. However, I have education to know that is not a death sentence. It's not the end of the world. It would just be my Eva. And sometimes I do wonder if maybe she has a little ADHD or because she's feral. And we'll see how it goes when she gets into school. I know teachers are better trained to recognize things. And
I
I
like what
don't
you
know.
said about the education part, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So just because we're live doesn't mean that you can't tell me I'm wrong and correct me. Don't
You're
worry.
wrong. I correct you.
Don't worry about my reputation. It already has taken a hit. Uh, just the family is working the comment section and the text phones. Like grandma's already told me I can't come to dinner. You're now the favorite. It's terrible. But please just correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like one of the things that you're saying with the education piece is, look, just because you are, loud or wild, and maybe it mirrors mania or mirrors symptoms of bipolar disorder, that doesn't mean that you're saying that it is, and that maybe society is missing that point. So calling your child feral is not the same as saying your child has an illness that you're not addressing, and you're able to tease that out. Does this cross your mind? I mean, because I guess, it's genetic, right? I mean, it would not be unheard of. Look,
Mm.
mom and dad, you, Billy, my brother and sibling, no mental illness. I have it. It's not unreasonable to think it's going to pop up somewhere. Of course, it's not unreasonable to think that it will or it won't. But
It
aren't
could or it couldn't.
she's 5? Aren't you just worried about her like having everything? Rob, her father, is constantly worried that she's going to be kidnapped, which of course leads to the joke, they will just return her. Uh,
And
but
they
how
will.
does that all? I mean, just tie that all up, because you know an awful lot about bipolar disorder, and I don't hear you saying, "Well, yeah, I am worried that she." You're actually going the other way and thinking, "Well, there might be this, but I'm holding firm." And that's like a very mature thing to say. It could possibly be, but we're not even
Oh,
remotely there yet.
I mean, before I knew more beyond fiction, the movies with the straight jackets and the rocking and what we know from how Hollywood portrays somebody with a mental illness. That was all I knew until you were diagnosed, and then you told me, and you sent me, what's the word I'm looking for? Materials.
Articles, pamphlets,
Articles. Yes,
blogs, words,
you sent me information so I could start reading up.
information.
Resources. That was the word
Yes.
I was looking for. You sent me resources where I could start looking into it. I think I learned more though from reading your blogs
But that would have
and
come
being able to
years
see it.
later, though.
It took a while. It wasn't an instant. It was okay. Wow, my brother is bipolar. Has bipolar. I guess that'd be more PC. My brother has bipolar. I don't know what that means. I don't even know what that is. So I, started
Who who
reading it.
who told you that I was admitted to a psychiatric hospital? Because the very
No one.
first, yeah, you were. I'm not trying to tell you. You were in the military, so you weren't even in the state, or I'm
I
sorry,
think
the
I was in
country. Were you in the
in
country?
Germany. I don't think so.
2003.
2003, I was in Iraq.
Okay, so in 2003, you're in Iraq. Your brother gets admitted to a psychiatric hospital. So my parents are having a banner year with children, and one of them is off to war, the other one is committed to a psychiatric hospital. So they just got all kinds of things to worry about. And unbeknownst to me, and it did hurt my feelings a little bit. Mom and Dad decided to tell you that I did not, or decided not to tell you that I was diagnosed with a major medical condition that I was hospitalized for, and then immediately put into long-term treatment. I'd like to think, and again, Christmas is not going to be fun at our house, but it did hurt my feelings, because I believe that if I would have been diagnosed with cancer or had a heart attack or had, got into a car accident, they would have told you. Now, I don't know, and we don't have to debate it, but how did you
Yeah.
feel being left out of that? I, I was
Oh,
diagnosed with this bad thing happened, and you didn't find out for a year.
I mean, I, they do that. They do that for any unpleasant news. They don't like to share it, especially if they think that it will cause discomfort, or, like wait until everything gets better and then we'll tell them. So this way they don't have to worry about it. And I get it. I get why they want to, even if I don't agree with it. I still have to tell them to tell us stuff. It's both of us. And it's, but yeah, I wish they would have told me, even though there's nothing that I could have done while I was over in Iraq. I could have known. No, I don't think I could have started researching there, but maybe I could have started talking to people and getting other people's perspectives.
I
because,
was not really
internet was not
talking
easy.
to anybody at that time.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really keeping mom and dad updated. I informed them I was hospitalized because the person who brought me made me. Otherwise, to be fair, I might not have told them. I was very out of it. I was very delusional. I thought that demons were trying to eat my brain. I was very suicidal. I was depressed, and it was a mess. How did you find out? I don't think I honestly know how you've always said that I told you. I have no recollection of telling you this.
I can't pinpoint it. Like, I think it was one of those, it might have just come up. I remember as a child, both you and Billy had attended therapy. I don't remember what it was for, what happened. I just remember. So maybe it was one of those that they kind of played it away that built on that. Because I honestly don't remember. I don't even remember them telling me that you were hospitalized and under suicide watch. I don't remember any of that. I think it was your blogs that truly told me.
I do remember you saying that when you started reading, and I started blogging, I 4 years after I was diagnosed is when I reached recovery. And that's what I define as spending more time living my life than I do managing bipolar disorder. And I started off slowly, writing articles and doing blogs and, dipping my foot into the advocacy world, because I saw so much that needed to be improved upon. And I saw how well my family did after they received education. And I remember when I was writing blogs in the beginning, you used to keep writing back and say, email, and you're like, when did that happen? That didn't happen. Are you sure that happened? I don't remember that. And you'd want more details, because obviously you know me personally. So, a 500-600 word blog is just like a quick narrative, and you wanted details. You wanted to know who was there. And this did open up a lot of conversations. And it's one of the reasons that I suggest to people to start little personal blogs and just ask their family to read them, because a lot of my family members asked me follow-up questions. I'm very glad that I was able to turn it into a career, but truthfully, it would have been completely worth the effort, even if I never would have written a book or done anything else, just because I got to have these conversations with so many people. But here you are, you're now in, I don't know where you are at this point, you're in Iraq or Germany, the world traveler. And now you're reading these articles from your older brother, whom you love, and I'm recounting, frankly, very scary, confusing, and unknown things that were kept from you. Talk about that.
I mean, there were several times reading your blogs or your articles where I would tear up. Because, I didn't know, I couldn't be there for you. I think that was the hardest thing for me, is that I feel like if I would have known, or if I would have knew more to notice when I was younger, when I was in the United States, that maybe I could have stepped up, we could have talked, we could have gotten educated together, because you didn't know either.
No.
I mean,
I was 25 years old when I found out I had a mental illness. Looking back, we should have known at about 15, because I had like symptoms then. But
Oh, I remember days that you would be in your room down in the basement. Like when you moved your room downstairs, even though you could have very well had a room upstairs, but you chose downstairs, and you would lock yourself in there. Days. I can remember Dad banging on the door trying to get you out of there.
Yeah, he wanted me to go to school. What a horrible father he was, wanting me to get an education. But yeah, I would stay up for days at a time because of the mania, and then I would crash and want to sleep. Now, in mom and dad's defense, what they saw was their son up for 2 or 3 days at a time, and now wanting to sleep for two. That in their mind, this was a behavioral issue. So
or going
I
out in the
understand
middle of
how
the
they missed
night
it.
in a blizzard to go clean your office.
It was dirty.
It was a blizzard. School was already canceled.
We also got hamburgers.
And the car died in the drive-thru, and we all had no cold weather gear.
Yeah, we walked home.
Didn't Mom come get us?
No,
After
remember
you
they
spent
had
25 minutes on the phone, and your hand was stuck to the phone because they wouldn't let us in the Wendy's because it was the middle of the night. Or was it Burger King?
It was a Burger King.
Yeah.
Wendy's, you don't need to write us nasty letters. Burger King, bring it on. You almost killed my baby sister. Let's talk about those things for a moment, because I came up with a lot of wild ideas, and we did many of them together because, you were my favorite, especially when I got a car. Let's go out and get food at 3 a.m. I'd wake you up and we'd get donuts and pizza. We used to go to the freeway bridge, and we had a paper route together. So we were already up earlier. We used to go to the drive-in and stay up all night. You joke that my favorite Debbie story is I told everybody that I got my first job at 13. I got my first job at 11, because I was 11 years old when I got my first paying job, and I'm very proud of that. Debbie got her first job.
How much younger am I than you?
You got your first job at 9. You got your first job at 9, but I hired you. You were working for me. So listen, this means I owned a business with employees by the time I was like 15 years old. But I always had these like really grand ideas, and I pulled a lot of them off. I understand why mom and dad, were so confused. I said that I wanted to start a computer business when I was 14, and mom and dad were like, whatever, but I did. I started a very profitable computer business at 14 years old.
We got free floppy disks from the circle. You sent me up there with like a note with different signatures trying to get me to get more free disks. Floppy disk. How many of our users, or the people online right now, do they know what a floppy disk is?
I don't know how many know. A floppy disk is, back when the internet was new, AOL used to hand out literal floppy disks that you put in your computer to sign up for AOL. Well, I figured out that you could peel off the label, reformat them, and sell them as just a floppy disk. Now, back then, a floppy disk was worth like 50 cents. So we just started stealing them off the displays. Well, eventually they got wise to the giant fat redheaded kid taking them. So I started sending in Debbie. Debbie was cute, little, and 8, and we would sell them. But these are the things that I came up with that people didn't know that were going on sort of behind the scenes. But many of them were successful. So I can see where this maybe handcuffed mom and dad. And obviously looking back, do you think it was weird that we had an enterprise reformatting AOL and CompuServe floppy disks to make money? And have you finally put it together that I never gave you a cut?
You didn't give me a penny. I just liked being involved, I guess. I just liked being able to go up there. You sent me with a paper with lots of different weird, like we would try to make up new signatures because, I wouldn't take them. I would say, hey, I have this many people who want me to get one for them.
It worked. That was a genius idea that I came up with, but there was a desire to make money there. So it's also very difficult to decide, hey, is that grandiosity, or was I just straight up a thief? It's really hard to know where that weighs in. And I'm an adult now. I mentor children. I have children in my own life. Obviously, I'm an uncle. I've been around many, many children, and I can say unequivocally that if I heard that any of them, took advantage of free samples in order to profit on their own, I would sit them down and I would be like, listen, this is not ethical behavior. This is not right. You should not be doing this. And I would put a stop to it. So I imagine if anybody would have caught us, they would have said the same thing, but nobody caught us. So maybe this has nothing to do with bipolar disorder. Maybe I'm just a bad person, but it didn't have that feel, that when I look back and I think of the things that I did it have the feel that it was stealing to you? I
wouldn't have done it if I thought it was.
So what was that like? What was it like to be around somebody who essentially for your entire childhood convinced you to do dangerous and questionable things, like go out in a blizzard, like just on and on?
I guess I am very much like our mother, and I believe the best in people until they prove otherwise. And you are 6 years my senior, so you know better. You're a responsible and adult. Like, I get to leave the house in the middle of the night. Yeah, I don't have school tomorrow. It was already canceled because of the blizzard. So why not go out?
That's true, but I did tell you to be quiet because we might wake mom up. I mean, did that not? Did that not clue you in? We don't have a lot of time left, Debbie. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I get in everything that I want to ask. You have a 5-year-old. I have bipolar disorder. I was committed to a psychiatric hospital. I've been suicidal. I've had delusions. A lot of scary stuff happened to me, and as you said, even you reading my accounts, which have been edited and made for public consumption, made you cry. Do you have any qualms whatsoever with letting me hang out with your kid? And what advice do you have for parents? I know you don't. I know the answer to that, but talk to parents, siblings in your shoes that are just like, look, I want my child to have a relationship with my sibling, but I am scared because, and maybe talk to them about what to look for.
Yeah, I mean, right now, okay, wait, let's see. No, I don't have any problem whatsoever. I let you watch Eva for a whole week. I had no problems with that. I'm like, bye, see you later. You enjoy the feralness.
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
But we had fun.
Yeah. Now, if you were symptomatic, then I might have second thoughts. But then again, I don't know. I've never seen you in the recent years as anything other than trustworthy. My brother, Gabe. That's all I can think of. I mean,
I know these are tough, and I'm very glad that I was able to get help, and I'm glad that I have a supportive family, and I'm just very privileged in a lot of ways. Not only because I had access to good medical care, because I had health insurance or money, and lived in a big city that had a lot of healthcare options.
yeah.
I was lucky.
And I meant not. Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's not so much that I meant symptomatic, but maybe untreated.
Yeah, if I was untreated, you should not leave me with your kid. I just want to state that unequivocally. It is.
We all have bad days.
That's true.
That's normal.
I'm so lucky in so many different ways. And one of the ways that I'm incredibly lucky, of course, is that I do have a supportive family. There are tons of people who have extraordinarily powerful stories and who tell them just as well, if not better than I do. And they want to write about their experience. They want to advocate on a high level, but their families have flat out shut them down. And they've had to make the decision, do they want to be open about their mental health, their mental illness issues, and advocate on a high level, or do they want to become accountants and have a good relationship with their family? And I do believe that the world is getting better, but I have to thank you for not caring, because eventually you're going to get a nasty email, maybe during this. I mean, we get trolls all the time. Somebody's going to say, this woman is nuts. Do not let your child hang out with that guy. He thinks he's famous because he's on Facebook Live.
I say, you don't know me. Actually, no, I wouldn't respond, because don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls. Very, very good. Debbie, you have like 45 seconds to wrap up. Any last thoughts that you have, and then we shall skedaddle.
Okay, last thoughts. Education. That's like my biggest thing. Of if more people would take the time to read, to learn, to talk to your loved ones, find out what's going on in their life. Find out how you can help. As a family member of somebody who is diagnosed with a mental illness, I talk to Gabe all the time. So open up that communication. Find out from them how you can help them.
Debbie, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. We do this on PsychCentral.com's Facebook page every single Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Please go over to PsychCentral.com, check out the website. It is very, 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 very cool. Also, this whole thing is like sponsored by the Psych Central podcast. It's a very cool podcast. I am the host. It is a great mental health podcast where I interview experts in the field of mental health, psychology, and mental illness. And I force them to explain things in a way that my father can understand it, because I figure if my father can understand, everybody can. And that's the goal. Listen to experts, but hear it in layman's terms. And you can check out that podcast on your favorite podcast player, or by going to PsychCentral.com/show. We will see everybody in a week. Thanks so much.